racism by police and everything was actually there, on you. It wasn't hidden, or they were hiding in bushes, or they were, doing their stuff online or what have you. They were out there with their truncheon, smashing in your head and throwing you in the meat wagons and all this kind of stuff. So you had no chance of daring to dream any higher than the community that you were in. And you were hoping that if something happens, that it's going to happen within your community. Because at times, living in Brixton, we always used to say that the minute we crossed over Vauxhall Bridge, which is the closest bridge to us in South London, we get a nosebleed, because it's coming like a complete next world to us as young kids. Growing up when you were in your teens back then. So to answer your questions, absolutely not. You dare not dream to the heights of where I've managed to reach and kept at this point.
Yeah. So after the Dragon's Den, then let's say just actually the few days prior to Dragon's Den, you had a deal in place then. Even at that point, what were you thinking at that time? Did you think then I could take this to a higher level, or see how it goes kind of thing?
Well, absolutely. I mean, this was the time when I actually found my market. When I had so many failures trying to sell the sauce amongst my own people for many years, and for a long time in music, and trying to persuade people, my local people, that I can sell something. I'm good. I can do music. I've got the sauce. It's my grandma. Blah blah blah, and it just never worked, because I always said that you can't sell ice to the Eskimos, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm trying to sell a Caribbean sauce, a Jamaican sauce, to a predominantly Jamaican market within my local Brixton. Yeah. And for them, they could make their own sauces, and plus it wasn't really authentic for them to be seeing Levi Roots, the man who they grew up with, literally telling them that he was an authentic Caribbean sauce. So it's after a while, when people were really dissing me, at the point when I got dissed so many times, I thought that I've got to get out of here. I believed in the sauce, and I believed in my own ability. But what I needed to do is to find a market that would see me as not something that they saw every day, and and not Caribbean. So I decided to just take my sauce to anywhere in the UK that ended with Shire.
Well, that was a conscious decision.
Yes, because I thought to myself, in the Shires, there are no Rastaman looking like me jumping around with sauces and reggae and all that type of stuff. So I would go into these neat little country lanes, into these country villages, up and down in Carmarthenshire and North Yorkshire and all these bloody shires around the country. Every weekend, me and a couple of friends would find ourselves to these chili festivals and Saturday markets. And for 2 years, we just did the shires and ignored the local market. And it was while I was in the shires that I actually found my market, that these people were actually loving the story. They were loving the sauce. It was absolutely new to them. And it was while I was at one of these type events that I was spotted by a producer from Dragon's Den, who would never have come to a market in local Brixton if I So the key of that is to find your market, because sometimes it's not that if your local market is the one. Sometimes you need to come out of that, out of your comfort zone, to be able to find your true market.
So whilst you were searching through all of the shires, is that when you got your first deal for I think it was like 2.5 something liters or something?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was being approached by so many people within mainstream, but I never really knew the mainstream market. All I knew was just really how to sing a mean reggae sauce song, and some other tunes that I've been singing all my life, and being able to cook and make the sauce. When it comes to the business of the sauce world, this was something that I was now trying to discover. It wasn't trying to sell a dub plate like what I was used to, or selling an album, or going to the studio, or what have you. This was now something completely different. So I was just being approached by these mainstream people who saw the opportunity, even before Dragon's Den, that this was a fantastic idea, for this reggae sauce, mainstream market, Caribbean food should now be arrived and be mainstream. So that company from the Shires was just one of many that had approached me and said to me that we could do it. But Dragons didn't happen so quick, after that, that you know, that letter or that offer that I had from that company that I took to Dragon's Den was just one of the many that I actually accumulated in the Shires.
I'm with you. Okay, so let's talk about your brand then, because you was doing music for a long time before. Your personality is great. You're a real entertainer. I've seen you live, like I say, when you came down to the Middlesex University and did a great intro. It was very capturing. So your personal brand, was this something you thought of before Dragon's Den? How did this come about to have such a solid brand?
Well, building the brand really came about because I knew nothing better than being Levi Roots. Yeah. I recognized that I perhaps wasn't the best singer in the world. I wasn't the best performer. I wasn't the best sound man, anything at all. But I was just good as representing what I was good at. So I thought that I'm going to try and be the best of me and make that be the brand. So while I was within the Shire, this was the building of the best of me, because I had the ghetto vibes, you know, and the ghetto ruling and the teaching about to sell something naturally and how to hustle and get yourself through life basically without anything. And that was key to add to this new entrepreneurial vibe that I was now teaching myself while I was in the Shires, reading books and talking to a lot of new people to build a brand of Levi Roots. Because the song Reggae Sauce was saying, put some music in the food. So what I was saying is that I'm going to build my career up nearly, now I'm in my 50th year in music. And I wanted to put all that within the food that my was an inspiration from my grandma, from my Jamaican upbringing. And I wanted to merge that together to build the brand and to say to people, don't buy when you buy the sauce, you're actually buying my culture as well. Because I'm saying put some music in the food. So it's really going along the road and building the brand as I realized that people were actually buying into me. It's not like in Brixton where they were dissing me and telling me, Lord of mercy, Levi, go back and make some dog plates. That's kind of this that I was getting. But here in the Shires, people were loving. I was telling them about Jamaica, where they only ever dreamed of, or where they ever saw it in films or hear a story. Now here was a Rastaman was coming to them. They weren't having to come into me. Every weekend I was there amongst them, you know, in Petersfield and all these kind of weird areas, you know, and telling them about Clarendon and my grandma and where Scotch bonnet comes from and how you merge that with pimento, and that's how jerk was created. So it created a whole new brand for me of thinking. And that's eventually when I realized that I was now the best Levi Roots that I could be. And that's the branding that I wanted to do. So I went to Dragon's Den, not just with the sauce, but with the branding of me, and that's exactly what Peter Jones invested in.
Yeah, so as I say, that's very important. So the slogan, put some music in your food, that's a great slogan. Was there a moment where you just thought, hold on a minute, that's actually a good idea? Like, was there a day that happened to you?
Yeah, actually, I was in the darkest place when I wrote those. When I first thought of those words, I was actually serving a prison sentence at the time when I couldn't focus, and nobody believed in me apart from my mom. She brought a guitar. She brought it to the prison. She begged the prison officers for me to have the guitar, and she brought a book also to show you how to learn yourself to play. Because the book just shows you where to put your fingers on the guitar and stuff. And she said, son, focus on that. And I focused and taught myself to play while I was serving my sentence. And one of the first songs that I wrote was a song called Free Your Mind, which actually I came out and was nominated for a MOBO Awards for that album. But I also was working on put some music in the food while I was in Her Majesty's pleasure with the guitar that my mom had brought me that I taught myself to play, and it was the same guitar that I brought in Dragon's Den and sang that same song to Lady Dragon. So it all fitted together when my life started to open up, and I wasn't the conductor of what was happening to me. I'm afraid I gotta tell you that. I think some higher spirit was the conductor of my life, because all I was doing was just being me.
I see. So as you know, people go into boardrooms and sit down for hours to try and come up with a slogan that's good. That's why I asked the question. Was it anything to do with the bad food, why you thought, put some music in this food while you was in there? Or?
Oh, absolutely. No, it was wanting to merge these two passions of mine into the brand or into the sauce. It was the two that I love most of all is music, and food. And when the music wasn't working, obviously I didn't make the number ones and I didn't do this. I was just doing okay within the roots and culture within reggae. But when that didn't really work, and I thought to myself, I've got to put down the music and get a job, and I did that. But eventually I thought, nah, man, I love the music too much. I got to find a way to do music and do the sauce as well, the two passions. And that's why that first there put some music in the food, because I said I wanted to merge these two things together as the sauce.
Okay, so now do you have a publicist or someone that manages your brand, or is it still all your ideas? Or
no, I've never had anybody that manages the brand or anything like that. I still control and rule the brand. As I said, because the brand is literally a living, breathing person, and I don't think a brand like mine, anybody else could actually do it. Because the stuff that we do is Caribbean inspired Levi roots, and if that doesn't come from me naturally, if I'm going to sell that to the public, then it becomes a bit false if I'm saying that is, authentically from me. So I think until one of my kids, come over and take over the whole thing and continue that inspiration of me, like how I've done it with my grandma, I think at this moment, everything will have to come from, from that inspiration at the end. But we're doing fine because the brand is the key thing for me. I only employ one person, and it's my PA. Because we just own the brand, which is the Levi Roots brand, and whatever I feel that is right. For instance, we're trying to work on some ice creams for this summer. If I think of something like that and I think it's intrinsic and right for the brand, then I'll find the best company in the UK or around the world or wherever that may be inspired by the Levi Roots brand and says, would you like to manufacture an ice cream range, which we've got coming out in the summer. So that's how it works when you go the branding route. So that's the most valuable thing to me at the moment is the Levi Roots brand.
I'm with you. So yes, when building a business, the brand is important, and you've done a great job at that. So what is some advice you would give to a young entrepreneur that wants to actually get products onto the shelves? So they build a great brand, but they're at their shyer stage where they're still searching for their market. If they did not go onto Dragon's Den, how would they go about getting onto the shelves of the big stores?
Well, this is about the choices that you make in your route that you're going to and how you expand the brand out. For one way, I remember when I started out, I used to just try to send things to Tesco, we just send bottles and letters and everywhere just to anybody, you concerned, and just try and make it that through. Yeah. But now in business, I realize that just like in the music business, when you send demo tapes to an A&R person, it just goes in the bin. It doesn't really make any difference. All the sending of my sauce back in the day, it doesn't necessarily mean that anybody in Tesco or Sainsbury's really saved. What you have to do is narrow it down and find who the buyers are.
Yeah.
Just to every product. For instance, if somebody's selling, he's got an idea for a sauce right now that's watching us now, don't just send it out. Find out who the buyer is in the supermarket that you are specifically targeting, and try and serenade him or her directly, because every product has a buyer, or every range has a specific buyer. So if you've got a sauce, there's a condiments buyer within Sainsbury's or Tesco's. So I think one need to really narrow it down. And the branding also, I think that's another thing that always lets down a lot of products once it gets to the next stage of managing to get through a door, and then somebody looks at it and says it's not actually up mainstream wise. So you got to figure out whether or not your branding is localized style or whether it's for mainstream, because there are two different ways of looking at it. For instance, one way is when I see a lot of people send me through stuff online for me to look at, you can hardly see what's on there, because everything is written so small and it looks, there's so much information on there that you're looking, and once you put it far on the shelf, you can't see what it is. It's going to be able to jump out at you for a start. So the labeling and the branding has to be special, and it has to be mainstream and tell the story without looking at it too long, because it's just one glimpse you need to see once you're going past in that supermarket. You take a look, and if the colors or the name or the brand doesn't jump out at you, more likely you'll go past it. So that's a real issue that sometimes we need to step up as well. The branding, and also get to know who the buyers are who you're actually sending your samples to.
The next question I have for you is working with the Dragons.
Yeah.
We will start at the point of, is it worth having investors? Was it worth it going on the show? You have been a major success, but as you say, you were in the Shires before and you have a great brand. So was it worth it?
That's a big question, Ian. That's a big question. Because I remember when I was in the den, that when the Dragons cornered me in the corner, now when they decided they're gonna give me the deal. And if you remember, I went to do only 40%, 20%.
Yes.
20%. But the Dragons, because there were now 2 Dragons, they wanted 20% each. So I had to give away 40%. Yeah. Now, I could hear all my friends and literally everybody through the television shouting at me, saying, Levi, don't take it because it's too much. 40% of your business you're taking away from, you're giving away from investors. That's a lot of it. And I can literally hear them, feel that people were saying that. And I know people were saying that now. But for me at the time, Eli, when I was thinking that extra 20% that I had to give away is actually what got me the deal. So you have to make up your mind. Either you have to give a little bit more and then get everything, or watch your business grow and soar to the ceiling and beyond and wherever, you were dreaming of the business can reach. Or you decide to keep everything, or be a bit greedy, or, a bit standoffish about investment and that sort of stuff. Keep everything and watch your business not go anywhere. Or you just struggle with it for many, many years, and it just becomes something that trickles down the middle. Maybe makes you a nice little living, but it'll never rise you above or anything like that. And that's the choice that you have to make when it comes to investment. So it's about long-term thinking, because that investment will only come, that type of investment, when you have to give a bit more, will only come back to be fruitful in a long-term way. Because when Richard Farley came in for that extra 20%, man, that was 15 years ago. Reggae sauce is a multi-million selling product now that outsell Heinz tomato ketchup, and is one of the biggest selling sauce within the country. So for me, when I look back at all the people that were saying to me, don't take it because I was giving away that little bit too much, I'm saying, wow, guys, saying this is where it is now. So for me, investors, of course, they are a good thing. But it depends on what you want. It depends on how you see the dream. And it's best for you to see the dream on a long term. Because if you see it on a short term, then investors' deal will always seem like a raw deal. Won't seem like a good one.
I'm with you. Okay, so what are the things you have learned from working with the Dragons?
Oh boy, I get this thing about patience, actually, which is what we just come off, is one of the most valuable things that every day I go around in my head and I say, oh boy, Levi, I'm so glad you've learned patience. I'm so glad you've learned how to wait for things, because my background, where I come from, you couldn't tell me about patience when I was in my 20s, when I was growing up. You couldn't tell me to wait around for a plan to take 5 years before I can start spending the money or having, see the fruitfulness of my labor. I want it now, give it to me now. That's the attitude that I grew up with. And I think one of the key things about being in business and being an entrepreneur is being sure that you've made a calculated risk. Because that's what entrepreneurs do. It's not a gamble, it's a calculated risk. And if your calculation is right, and normally the entrepreneur's calculation normally is right, that tree will bear fruit in long term. But my God, when it bears fruit like a mango tree. Mango tree?
Yeah.
working with fruits. You know, so
giving.
that's the attitude of how to become an entrepreneur. It is one that you really have to have that, you know, skill, that born skill to be able to see the long term and the patience that some of these people have. No entrepreneur you can go in front of them and ask for investment and you can tell him that he's going to make a profit tomorrow or next week or next year. He's not going to believe you at all. Absolutely, your business plan will probably be some flawed along the line, because those first year will always be the year when you lose money, you know, and things are not going right. Is a few years after that when, you know, you show the entrepreneur that you start to make the real money, and he'll actually say, yeah, this is a believable business.
I'm with you. Okay. Is there anything else you would say you've learned from working with the investors?
Maybe not working with the investors, but I tell you, there's one thing that I would warn potential entrepreneurs of, is when you get there, it's the hard work that you have to put into it.
Yeah.
And it's the loneliness that it also brings as well, because you've got to ditch all your friends.
Yeah.
You know, there's this thing about surrounding yourself with like-minded people. And this is serious, guys. You know, you can't go onto this journey with the people that you had before that was perhaps holding you down or not instructing you or not inspiring you. They were just there for chit-chat and so they keep you. You can't go on this journey with them. They are the fun people, but I'm afraid you have to ditch them, you know, or you have to reduce that contact with them. That's one of the things that I miss most of all, is that interaction. And it even raises issue with your family as well, because that focus that you will need to be able to do that entrepreneurial journey, or to be on that journey, it really is a hard focus. And at times people won't believe that you have to work so hard. But when it's you, because the entrepreneur is a lone wolf, you know, it's all about him. Really, it's not, because there's normally a team there, but he's the smooth, you know, the duck on the water. I don't know if you ever see me make the analogy, you know, the duck on the water going along nice and smoothly. That's the entrepreneur. He's thinking everything, the machine in his head, and the duck is all nice and smooth. But when you look below the water, when a duck is fierce to the legs, working hard, and the engine is rolling and stuff like that. So that's the team that we talked about, surrounding yourself with like-minded people that will allow you to work the best of you and to be able to be that entrepreneur that goes along. But it is a lonely world, but at the end of the day, that's how it is, because to work hard, you're going to have to need that focus and that conscience. So all you need to hope is that your family and the friends and club that you have around you will allow you to be you and to be able to go ahead on that journey without dropping off, you know, at any time.
I'm with you. So when you had the issue, the court issue with the source, that was with one of your friends, right?
Yeah.
Were they ever involved in the process of actually going to the Shires with you and pushing the source, or?
No, actually what happened was, I could have at least 10 or 20 people at the time when I came out to Dragon's Den that was suing me at the time. Everybody that ever smoked a spliff with me back in the day. Every girlfriend that had ever made said I was a terrible lover or something like that was now out in the press and saying, and these are the stuff that you've got to be ready for. I think the music business that I was in before kind of set me up for that when that happened, because it's inevitable that when you reach, you know, there's a great psalm, you're probably too young to know it, but it says, the heights that great men reach and kept was not attained by sudden flight, but while their companions slept, they were toiling upwards through the night. Now, when you roll this back, or guys are watching you guys, you will know that. Means that the journey, when you reach the journey of where you are, you work hard. Like everybody's like a crab in a barrel trying to drag you down, but you manage to reach yourself up there. And when you're up there, sitting down nice and peaceful, everybody starts to fight again. So when you're up there, and I think that was inevitable for me when I came up. But I won the court case. I don't like to boast. I don't even talk about it more, because it's just a part of my life that I wish wasn't there. But I could have paid these guys off straight away when I started. As a matter of fact, Peter thought that I should have paid these guys, you know, what at the time what they thought was a lot of money. But to me, you know, I saw that as, because I said the vision for me was long term and I knew what the vision was worth. But for them, they were looking for a few bucks here and there. But I knew that if I had threw them a few bucks right now, I couldn't be talking to you like, you know, with clear mind that, you know what I'm saying, that I don't have anything to hide or whatever by that when you buy out yourself. So that's why I went the route of actually spending near enough £1 million to defend myself against it. But that was, like I said, that was like 10 years ago, man. You know, that's sport under the bridge. But it is something for people to actually be aware of when you get on that journey. There will always somebody ready to swipe off your legs when you reach. In Jamaica, we will always call that bad mind and thing. And it will always be there. But the key thing is for you to be looking out for it and to be aware when it strikes.
Okay, now that's great advice. My next question is about Black-owned businesses in the UK and Black CEOs. What do you think about the lack of Black CEOs in the UK? Why do you think there is such a lack of Black CEOs?
Well, that's a big one there. You know, that's a governmental thing. That's an employment thing that you're going to start from there. There's the lack of opportunities for especially for young Black men is clear to see. This is one of the reasons why we are not represented within boardrooms, because we don't have the skills a lot of the time. Because to be able to be one of the choices within stepping up into the boardroom, you have to have the experience. Now, if you're not being employed, if your people are not given the chance to have that experience, then you can't really expect them to, you know, to be up there. So that's the first thing that we've got to attack the government to be able to say, give people employment, give people chances. Make it even up, you know, make this whole thing about employment, make that young Black boys as the same opportunity, you know, as boys around the country, you know, that would be able to have the same education to get that job. But I think the lack of that is the root reasons why a lot of us are not stepping up there. Because even when I had my restaurant and I was trying to employ head chefs, you know, and I was desperately trying to keep my employment of saying I want to employ young kids off the street, kids like me who never had a chance, you know, or others who may have had failures elsewhere and that sort of stuff. And I didn't have a problem of finding people to work on the floor. There's lots of that. But to find head chefs, you know, that was something that was truly, truly difficult. And for me, it wasn't the lack of try, because that it just wasn't there. Because at the time, restaurants were not giving, you know, Black chefs the chance to become chefs.
Okay, so that's kind of a chicken and an egg scenario then. If you're not given the opportunity, then how do you get to excel and achieve those roles? So,
like racism, you know, people say that if people don't talk about it, then how do you expect people to know about it? You know, so these people who say that, you know, you don't want to hear about it and blah, 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 you know, conversation. Well, how do you expect to understand how the next person feels or if you don't hear about it? So issues like employment, you know what I'm saying? If we don't fix that, then the rest that we're asking for will be a bit difficult to reach.
I'm with you. Would you advise, if you was to do it all again and you were 18 again, would you be an entrepreneur again, or would you search for employment or have some form of career path in mind, seeing as how the world is today in 2021?
Well, it depends on in what age, in what era I am when I'm 18 again. if I'm 18 again like now, like you guys in this time now, then I would be joyful. You know what I'm saying? I would see this as a brilliant opportunity for me to be able to, you know, to access myself using the internet throughout the world. I wouldn't need to be pigeonholed in this, you know, 5 square mile of Brixton as a kid if I'm 18 back then. So my dreams and my thought would be completely different. And that's why I say to young people now, you have such an amazing opportunity to be able to pull yourself out of this, you know, this crab in a barrel situation that we talk about, because of the way the world is and the situation that we live is much better. I'm not saying that you don't still have problems and have huge problems as well, like we just talked about, unemployment and all that. but it's easier. I mean, I didn't make it until I was 48. That's the age I was when I went on Dragon's Den. You know, but it wasn't because of lack of not trying when I was quite younger, because I tried everything. I threw the barrel at everything. But as I says, now it's much more easier. So 18 for me nowadays, I'll be rubbing my hands together, man, and feeling that the world's mine. So I could do anything that I want now. Yeah. But back then, nah, it still would be, probably stick to the old guitar and the music.
No, I'm with you. Thank you very much. So is there any advice that you would like to give to that demographic that is young? They don't really know where to go at the moment. They may not have opportunities right in front of them, or even know any inspirational people or people that could give them some guidance. What would you say for those people that want to change their situation?
To put a broad paintbrush, you know, on what I feel is what's wrong with our generation, you know, our young people in general. I think one of the best changes I want to see within that is about attitudes. You know, I think that's one of the sort of virtues that has held us back big time, is because our attitude. I think we need to strip away, you know, our attitude of how we raise our voices, for instance, how we demonstrate, you know, because it hasn't worked for us over the years. The way that we are as a people, it hasn't worked for other people. I mean, if you're white or whatever, and you demonstrate about something, if you're a woman or if you're gay or what have you, and you demonstrate about something, or if you're a football team that wants to go into and you raise your hand in your mouth, it's there. If you're a woman and you want women's vote for back in the day, and you raise and demonstrate and stuff, within no time, it's there. It may take years, but it's not going to take 400 years. You know, that's what it does for us. So our way of how we do things and how we fight against things and how we fight for things, I think our attitude needs to be looked at. We need to maybe to see that maybe we need to approach our lives in the way that we speak and do things attitude-wise. And I'm not talking culture. So don't get me wrong. I think a lot of people will get that mixed up. It's not about culture. It's about your attitude. I think if we fix that, or if we look at that, maybe we can pinpoint a few things that will make us as a people sort of live better and be able to, you know, to rise up even more in society than where we are right now, without the help of, you know, of the system coming down and pulling us up. We need to fix our own self. And if there's one thing that we need to fix first, is that attitude towards each other and businesses and everything.
Yeah. So would you say financial empowerment within the community would be one of the first things?
No, again, I don't think it's about money. I think that will come. I think that will come if we were start to fix, you know, our attitude towards even money. I mean, I like this Black Pound Day, which I see, which is going around, which I've actually supported. I love those kind of new attitudes of how we look at our own money and try to keep it within our own community. We've never seen that before. You know what I'm saying? I'm old enough to can't remember. We know how the Indian man works. You know, again, what people will know that, you know, him will have a little board up shop here, and then he will work for a few years and a shop come next door, open up to him. He don't have a family or anything like that. He have a cousin down the road. He have the money to buy the shop. He will buy the shop and put the cousin in and work before you know it, and the next shop. But our attitude is not like this.
Yeah.
I think we need to work towards those kind of issues. And the money and the riches and everything like that will come within the long term, like what we talked about in my story. But, you know, it's first of all, is to flipping that switch to say that, man, we change, man. We're going to be going to stealth mode. You know what I'm saying? Yes. We're not the B-52 bomber anymore. You know the B-52 bomber, when it comes, it's the biggest aircraft in the world, and when it comes, it's like King Kong coming. You hear everything one time.
Yeah.
Whereas the stealth bomber, you hardly hear that coming at all. You know what I'm saying? When it's coming to fix things and to deal with its business, it comes silently with a nice, lovely message. And then when it lands, it says what it has to say. You know, that's what we need. Stealth, not B-52.
I'm with you. So going back to the Black Pound, certain communities actively teach their children, or it's just a known thing within their community, that money should circulate at least 7 to 9 times before it leaves their community. How do we instill similar values within our community now?
Well, again, it's about the attitude. I've always grown up thinking that money is the root of all evil. And I've always grown up with the attitude of our people saying that if that man they have money over there, so you burn him out and tell him saying he's not good. He should give away his money, or he should give it to the poor, like what the Bible says, and come back as a naked man. And then the people love. That's how I've grown up. Literally, that's what the Bible. That's the view of how we see money is the root of all evil. It doesn't say the love of money is the root of all evil, which is really what it should have said. That if you love this thing too much, more than humanity, then it can be your actual destruction. But we have come to take it as that wealth is not a good thing. And that's why when we see each other having things, you start burn them out and you start bad mind them, and you don't build them up within the community because you see it as a way to build force and might amongst you. When you build it, you see it as a way to break down the other person so you can usurp. You can usurp yourself. So we have to start to liking wealth. You know, for me, I love wealth because that's what I work for. And when I work hard, I want to keep my wealth and I want to enjoy my wealth. I want to look back at my wealth and think, yes, Lord of mercy, we are talking about. Because you work hard for it. It's not like back in the day, you know, like, you know, God bless my grandma back then in her time. You know, for her, it was just like, wealth is not good. You know, you cost wealth and you talk wealth. Well, no, we need to change that because a lot of us is still underneath that, you know, that exact band.
I'm with you. Now, I think that's great advice, and that's a great note to close on, thinking about the attitudes within the community. I do think thinking about finances in general, it needs to be taught to children younger, and we need to speak about money more within our community. Other communities actively speak about money. For example, like you said, the Asian community, they will speak about money with their children and as a family unit. Whereas, you know, within the Black community, you wouldn't speak about money outside your house, maybe not even inside your house, but outside of your house to your own family members. You don't even really speak about money. It's just not really a thing. So I do think that should change. But thank you for appearing as a guest on the Knowledge Finder podcast. This is what Knowledge Finder is all about, giving a few gems to the community, to people that are starting their entrepreneurial journey. So big thanks again, Levi. Is there anything that you mentioned your ice cream? Is there any other new projects you want to mention before we close?
Yeah, the key thing I want to mention is that I've got this movie which has been made about my life, which is absolutely amazing, as you can imagine it. You know?
I did see that. What's the plan with that?
Well, we're working on it right now. Actually, after I finished talking to you, I'm on my way down to Cornwall to play a small part within a new movie coming up. And it's the same film company that will be filming my film. Okay. This movie is finished that they're doing now, which I'm going to play a small part in. My film going to be made afterwards. One of the biggest company in the UK, massive hits. Actually, the film that I'm going to be playing now, you probably will know, it's called Fisherman's Friend. It was one of the biggest hits in this country for many years. I think it was out 2 years ago. So they're doing a sequel to it, part 2, and I'm playing a part to it. So as you can imagine, you know, that company is really massive.
Yeah.
So they're the one who's doing my movie. So it's just really amazing that I'll be able to sort of tell the story on screen, and hopefully that, you know, what I've been talking to you about and saying that, you know, if Levi Roots can do it, then surely, you know, most people, if you try hard enough, you'll be able to do it as well. Hopefully, if the film can tell that story as well, let's see.
Okay, so you're stepping up your acting career. So you've got the feature in.
Yeah, no, I won't actually be playing in it. Like, no, not at all.
I see. So you want to feature in
a small part, a bit like how Stan Lee plays in a small part in the Marvel movies. I'll probably play like a bumbling Caribbean takeaway person that never has nothing at the shop when someone comes in and they say, "You have some nice cookies, please." And he said, "Me don't have none." Me don't have no chicken. Me don't have this. Me don't have that.
Great. So when we will see that on the screens, your actual movie about your life, when will that be finished?
We actually start filming perhaps later on in the summer, and I'm just waiting on the screenwriter now. His name is Roy Williams. He's one of the best black screenwriters in the country, doing the writing at the moment. So I think we should actually start picking actors and start locations and everything later on in the summer. So you'll definitely be at a 2022 release. Perhaps summer this time next year, but watch this space because you'll hear much more about it. But the key thing is that the process is now being started, the script is being done, and we'll sign the contract. So it's just amazing.
Great, and we'll watch out for that. So thank you again for appearing on the show. I'll make sure everybody knows anyway. We can buy the reggae sauce. You know where to check out Levi Roots on Twitter, on the socials. And look out for his latest his movie about his life and also his feature appearance in Fisherman's Friend. Thank you very much, Levi.
Cheers, Eli. Respect, my brother.